the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Okay, welcome to the Morrison County Planning Commission meeting. So this is the meeting of the Morrison County Planning Commission. The commission is made up of citizens from the 5 commissioner districts of the county and 1 county commissioner. The purpose of this commission is to oversee the preparation of the Morrison County land use controls, hear and review applications, and offer recommendations for conditional use permits, interim use permits, subdivision plat approval, planned unit developments, rezones, and other matters to be considered by it under the Morrison County Land Use Control Ordinance. Our powers are established in state statutes chapters 394.21 to 394.37. Conditional uses and interim uses are recommended for approval upon a showing by an applicant that standards and criteria stated in the ordinance will be satisfied. All questions must be answered in the affirmative in order for the Planning Commission to recommend approval for a CUP or an IUP, unless conditions can be attached that bring the proposed use into compliance and mitigate the negative finding of facts. Conditions and restrictions may be imposed by the Planning Commission as deemed necessary to protect the public interest. After your public hearing is complete, you may leave if you wish. Okay, we just have one item on the agenda here, and that is Camp Shamana. Camp Shamana of the Evangelical Free Church, 2345 Ridge Road, Motley, Minnesota. Application for a conditional use permit to expand the existing camp located in Section 5, northwest quarter, subject to easements and point of north half, Sections 5 and 8, Township 132, Range 31, Scandi Valley Township. So at this time, I'd ask the applicant to come forward and then state your name for the record. And then just make sure you please speak in the microphone so that Randy, who's remote, can hear us.
My name is Kyle Strickland. I'm the project manager at Camp Shamana.
Okay, thank you, Kyle. Right?
Yes, sir.
Yep. Okay. So at this time, I think we're ready for Amy with the staff report.
You bet, Mr. Chair. This is an application for a conditional use permit to update the 10-year master plan. Again, this is located in Sections 5 and 8 of Scandi Valley Township. Section 803 and 804.5 require a conditional use permit to expand and or change a planned unit development. Here's a plat map of Scandi Valley Township, and the red dot is the location of the parcels. And then here's the conditional use permit request received from the applicant, along with some site drawings. And then here's an aerial photograph of the area with all of the parcels under Camp Shamana's ownership in yellow and blue. And I'll correct the staff report. It is a total of 739.79 acres. And then here's some oblique imagery of the property. Camp Shamana is a year-round Christian camp and retreat center on Lake Shamana, which is a general development lake. Established in 1958, the camp has acquired parcels over the years for a total of 6 parcels and 739.79 acres. The camp offers a variety of activities and amenities, including water activities such as tubing, water skiing, canoeing, and fishing, along with outdoor recreation, including a high ropes course and zip line, frisbee golf, shooting sports, a nature center, horseback riding, sledding, and playground. Indoor activities and amenities include a climbing wall, volleyball, dodgeball, floor hockey, and basketball. The most recent acquisition of land occurred in June 2018, and this was a purchase from Potlatch Lake States Timberlands and added 678.82 acres to the camp property. A portion of that was sold off, and so the total acreage now is the 739.79 acres. Two of the parcels have a total of 5,712 feet of frontage on Lake Chaminade, and two of the parcels are an island. The other three parcels are contiguous to these two, but do not have lake frontage. In 1995, a conditional use permit was granted to expand the planned unit development by establishing campsites on an island zoned shoreland residential. And the CUP was granted with one condition, and that was no cutting of trees in the maple basswood forest area and no collecting of firewood in that same area. In 1996, a conditional use permit was granted to expand a planned unit development by including a 28 by 42 8-bedroom dormitory. In 1997, a CUP was granted to expand the planned unit development by the addition of a 112 by 140 activity center with all Department of Health and MPCA permits obtained as required. In 1998, a CUP was granted to expand the existing PUD by the addition of a railroad car for sleeping quarters. And then in 2017, a CUP was granted to construct a 40 by 78 and 12 by 20 addition onto the existing chapel meeting space and an 8 by 10 addition onto the Pine staff cabin, as well as adding parcels 29, 73, and 74 to the camp's CUP. In 2019, a conditional use permit was granted for a 10-year master plan that included 9 items of expansion and improvement. I have them here. I'm not going to go through them. I'll refer back to them if you need. The conditional use permit was granted with 3 conditions. The camp shall not allow patrons and staff to utilize soaps and other cleansers within Lake Chaminade. The camp shall not allow horses and other livestock to enter the waters of Lake Chaminade. And the camp shall arrange for the Morrison County Shoreline Specialist to perform a stormwater and shoreline assessment of the camp property. And that needed to be completed by September 1st, 2019. And that the camp needed to implement and maintain those recommendations by September 1st of 2020. The applicant is now requesting to update their 10-year master plan to include the following additional projects. I'm not going to read them, but I'll have them here to refer back to. There is a need for increased septic system capacity with these improvements. Due to the collective gallons of effluent, this site is under MPCA permitting for septic discharge and will require an advanced septic designer to review and design the system. A surveyor has completed impervious surface and density calculations. The existing and proposed density and impervious surface is compliant. If the items within the master plan are approved, the camp would be considered to have a conditional use permit to implement the plan. Land use permits would be necessary for construction of structures, but additional hearings on each project would not be necessary. Lake Chaminade has varied development that includes 3 resorts, including Camp Chaminade, and many small seasonal and year-round residences. Lake Chaminade is prone to flooding due to it being an isolated basin. There are efforts by the Chaminade Lake Improvement District and private property owners to find a solution to stabilize the lake water level. The camp is served by Ridge Road, which is a paved township road. Suggested conditions, if approved, would be to carry over the conditions that were attached to the last master plan, and that is the camp shall not allow patrons and staff to utilize soaps and other cleansers within Lake Chaminade, and the camp shall not allow horses and other livestock to enter the waters of Lake Chaminade. The applicable comprehensive plan goals and objectives is shoreline management, goal D1, goal E3, goal D10, objective 10, local economic development, goal C1, objective 8, goal C2, objectives 1 and 2, 4 and 6, and 19. And then the comprehensive water plan goals and objectives is the surface water goal, objective B, land use and development goal, objective B. 56 notices were sent and no comment was received prior to the public hearing. And then here are your conditional use criteria questions, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Amy. Kyle, do you have anything to add to that or anything come to mind? I'm sure we're gonna have a lot of questions for you, but
Yeah, I would imagine. Not really. I mean, it's been a good time at camp in general. We've grown a lot in the last several years, so the new plan, there's a lot in it, but it reflects keeping up with our demand from the patrons. So it creates problems, but it's a good problem to have. So it's been fun. We're just getting to the point where we're gonna have to add bed space to keep up with our patron demand.
okay. So guys, there's a lot to go through here, and so we don't get our questions mixed. What's your guys' thoughts about just going down each line that they propose, and then we ask questions in each one of them? Would that work? What do you guys think?
I guess I'd like a couple of questions on history answered first before
Okay.
we go down.
Okay. Yeah, I got a couple of them too, so,
Okay, then I
Yep.
think that'd be a good plan.
okay,
Personally.
okay. So, Mr. Sish, you want to start? Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, looking back in the staff report here on page, it doesn't have a page number, but the second page. In 2019, a conditional use permit was granted for a 10-year master plan. I don't know, maybe you could, you're right there. Okay, has all of this been accomplished? Now, we already reviewed number one out of,
Sure.
before the meeting. Perhaps you could review that. You acquired that land, it was added
sir.
in to the, and then you sold some.
Correct, yep. I can just run down through them all real
Sure.
quick if that's the easiest thing to do. Yeah, the parcel was purchased from Potlatch, added to CUP, and then camp, I don't remember the timeline, Amy, if you need it, I can find it, but I don't know, but a parcel of around 176-ish was sold. So that would have been the northwest corner of the property, so it didn't create any, weird transitions, so the property is still contiguous. We did complete the 4 cabins. We have not constructed a hay equipment shed. We have not done the entrance on the retreat center, or on the Skyview bathroom, so items 4 and 5. Number 6, 1 was completed. We combined 2 of them into one building, just to save on cost, and that is currently under construction, looking to be, have housing in it this coming summer, or not this summer, excuse me, next summer, so 2023. That'll be up and going. We have not done a new nature center building or the roof attachment on the shop. And we have not moved the RV campground at this point. So,
Okay, then the next question would be,
sure.
were any of, some of these were carried over into your new master plan.
Correct, yes.
Is there anything in here that wasn't carried over that you still plan to do?
And it might have been my oversight on that. I would have assumed that the other items would have carried, which, like I said, that may be me misunderstanding the process. So most everything on there we'd still like to do. Number 9 did get moved specifically because we have another campground area that we're wanting to relocate and just combine all the campground, the volunteer, and our regular guest campground into one spot instead of having 2 separate, which we currently have.
So is that addressed in number 8 down below?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Correct. And
And-
the others are, like the entrances are, on the old conditional use permit, just provide a better flow of traffic, and then also just some airlock spaces as they're entering, guests are entering buildings, just for heat loss, primarily in the winter. So those we would still like to do.
If I recall correctly, in 2019, a fair bit of the proposal was around the horses and a building for them and how they were managed. Do you still have horses?
We still do have horses and do a horse program, so we've got
But you're not
typically.
proposing to change that, or?
No, we typically have about 35 horses, and they're used for trail rides and different things, activities for the kids. But that's not, we're not looking to expand that or do anything really different.
So there's 35 horses on site year-round?
Yes, and I wouldn't, I mean, that number could go up and down as we have some that, if we have to phase out and then we bring new ones in so they can be trained up.
And maybe you can refresh my memory from back in 2019. I know we talked about that, manure and handling, and are they all housed in box stalls? How is that?
No, they're on pasture.
Okay,
So the only time they come into box stalls would be either supplemental feeding or just getting ready for the daily use of the trail rides. Other than that, they're grazing.
okay, so, yeah, I think that addresses the questions I had on the history, but maybe one for staff is 35 horses in shoreland. How do we need to address that further?
No. As you can see, this is where the horses are, and they are a registered feedlot.
Okay,
And so we have oversight through the 70-20 feedlot rules. And so that is something that is regulated on its own through the feedlot program because there's 10 or more animal units in shoreland. So they're expected to abide by
I think we covered
those.
that in 2019,
Yeah.
but I couldn't remember. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Marvin, do you have any questions at this point?
Not at this time.
Okay. Mr. Brucher?
No, I think I'll let people that, I'll just listen to
Okay.
Mr. Stish's questions and yours as we go along. Thank you.
Okay, Kyle, I don't know, were you around in 95? Probably not.
No, I've been there 17 years, but I started in '05, so.
Just one thing I was gonna ask is, in 95 here, they had, one condition was no cutting trees in the maple basswood forest area and no collecting of firewood in that same area. What, do you know anything about that, or what's the reasoning for that, or?
Mr. Chair, I believe that was related to the island, so let me get that. So it was, I believe there's a forested area of the island, and then that shouldn't be and couldn't be
Okay.
touched or removed or disturbed.
I was just wondering, because 27 years later,
Yeah, that's
if
been a
if
while.
if we don't, I didn't know what
Yeah.
the reason was, because it's
Yeah.
just like any forest. You let it go for 27 years, there's a lot of junk stuff there, and that's why I asked the question.
So,
is just
yes,
to-
so Mr. Chair, right now, islands are given a shoreland special protection overlay. So commercial use of an island is very rare. And so, I'm assuming the reason for that condition was to leave that or have some protections on that, even though they were being allowed to utilize it and develop it.
So is there a lot of dead trees there and a mess, or?
It's not a mess,
Okay.
but there's definitely downfall and stuff. And, particularly with the high water levels and the erosion that we've had, a lot of the shore trees have tipped in.
Yeah. I was just wondering, it's just, some of the forest stuff, you let it go so long, it just becomes more of a fire hazard than, so from 27 years ago, I thought it was something to look at, that maybe that needs to get cleaned up a little bit. I'm not saying you have to, but if that's something that you think that at least get some firewood out of it just to keep it cleaner, just bringing it up, because that was done in 95. Like I said, that's 27 years, and it could do more harm than none by leaving that restriction on. So that's why I just opened that up for conversation piece. I don't know what it looks like, so.
Yeah, unfortunately, we haven't had much blowdown in there at all, so there's not been a lot of, storm damage or whatnot in there, but there's definitely trees that could come down and probably should.
Okay. So that's something I noticed, and I look at forest restoration a lot different than other people. I think not cutting is worse than cutting, so, once we get going into this, maybe we can look at that. I don't know if we can or not, but.
Mr. Chair, the scope of this request is to address the master plan. This was a previously granted CUP that pertained to establishment of campsites on the island, so it's not under the purview tonight to open that up and fiddle with the condition that was already put on a previously on a previously granted CUP. So that wouldn't be something that would be on the table tonight to modify any of those
Okay.
conditions.
Okay, so then I think what we'll do, Amy, if you'd go to the slide where it shows the new request, the 10-year plan. I think the easiest way is if, Kyle, if you could just go one at a time.
Sure.
Maybe go by one, say what that thing is, and then maybe it'll open up some questions for us.
Sure. The first one is the 104 by 50 activity center. We do have a large gym kind of in the center of camp. This one will be another gymnasium kind of space, but also serve as a small chapel space for the three retreat centers that were built off the 2019 plan. We're in the process of kind of zoning camp by age groups, so the programming aspects work better.
Sorry to interrupt you, just to make sure we're all on the same page, or is this the page that you're on?
No, on the
Or the one
screen.
that you submitted,
What you have in front
or,
of you?
or the one on the
I'm
screen?
going off the
The
staff
new,
report.
the new 10,
Correct. Yeah.
Okay,
the
they're
new
pretty
10-year
similar.
plan, Dave.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yes, sir. So it'll serve for that. It'll be located near those other two buildings, the one that was completed and then the one that's under construction. So that'll be where our first through fourth grade kids spend most of their time.
Okay. So I think what we'll do too, just to help out, is we'll go through all this, then when we're done, we'll pull up the map, and then maybe if you could just go through each one and show where they're gonna be,
Yep.
so we ain't flipping back and forth. You guys, okay, so you understand that? I think just to help us get through this.
Sure.
Okay,
Absolutely.
thank you. You guys have any questions on this one?
Mr. Chair, first, I'm not familiar with the site, haven't been at it. So one item, and it looks by the map provided here that it's some distance away from the lake. Can you give approximate distance this proposed building, the activity center, is from the lake? And
see if I can
the
find
type of
the-
terrain it is, so my concern is the amount of water running towards the lake. It looks like it's far enough away, it should be absorbed.
Yeah, I believe it's in tier 4. Actually, it's out of tier 4, so it's not in a defined tier of development. Approximately, I would guess 1,000 feet or better.
Okay, that'll answer my
Something
question.
like
Thank
that.
you.
There's a whole lot of
And,
dips and
In the
stuff
type of
between.
terrain, is that fairly, is that much of a slope going towards the lake, or is that?
No, it's fairly flat where it's at. Camp has a lot of kind of bowls and ridges and undulating terrain, so there's a lot between there and the lake.
So, Amy, you brought this map up and, okay, I see it there. Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions for that item one at this time? If not, go ahead with the next one, Kyle.
Okay. Number 2 is construct up to 40, approximately 25 by 35 cabins, and they would house 12 guests each. So basically, that is the major expansion part as far as bed space. I don't know if we would ever hit the 40 number. That's just the number internally that we were looking at based on the growth of the last 5 years if it kept going. Obviously, we're in a very interesting, I'll just say economy at this point. Material prices are up 40 to 50% across the board. So even when we were putting this together, costs have significantly changed. And looking forward to the next year, I don't know what we'll do, to be honest with you. As far as new stuff, we may have to put it on hold until the economy normalizes a little bit. So it's kind of hard to say, but that piece is the major expansion as far as catching up with client demand.
Okay, and then I read in this paperwork that up to 40 cabins, and you plan on doing a few each year, 4 to 8 or something like that,
Correct.
whatever.
Yep.
So it'd be over time, not all at once, so.
Correct.
Just so everybody kind of understands that.
Yep.
And then, like I said, we'll go back through and you could show us where they're located, when we get done with this. You guys have any questions at this point on this? Go ahead, Mr. Stish.
So these are more or less bunkhouses, or
Correct, yep,
there's nothing in them besides sleeping space, there's no,
correct, no plumbing.
okay. So 40 times 12 is,
480,
yeah, that's a lot of people.
it is,
I assume everything that you're proposing in this plan supports this 480 people, plus
Correct.
the people you already have.
yes.
So on any given day, if these were full, 480 plus what you've got, where would you be at on a maxed out day in the future?
With staff, that would probably be around 1,200 people
Okay,
on site.
and boy, you sent out how many responses, or letters to people? Quite a few, 41 or 42?
56.
I assume what they got was an expansion of Chaminade, probably not any details, but obviously nobody's really asking. Nobody's here or seems concerned. And I know that we have tiers, and all of the tier densities are met in this proposal. Correct, Amy?
That's correct. And density is not calculated on the number of people, it's calculated on the number of dwelling. I mean, it is related, but we don't utilize the number of people. We utilize the square footage allowed in each tier for dwelling units.
Okay, so theoretically then, if all the tiers were developed around the lake to their end, to their capacity, the lake could handle it. Is that why we have tier densities?
So the farther away you get from the lake,
Yep.
the more people, or the more units you can
But they're all there for the
have.
lake.
Correct, and so also we look at the frontage that is along the lake as well, and we accept out with that calculation, we accept out bluffs, wetlands, all of those items, so all of that square footage gets detracted. So when you look at a property that is 700 plus acres, your tiers are going back into the ag zoning district, because once you get 1,000 feet away from the lake, then you're no longer in shoreland zoning at that point. And so, and I think also it's understood that when you have something like that, there's probably more, yes, it's lake-centered, but there's more going on than all of those people utilizing the lake.
Yeah,
So,
okay. Good point, yes. So right now, the way you're developed today, how many guests could you host in a day, guests and staff?
We're normally between 600 and 700 on a full busy summer week, which
So
will be
with-
our peak.
So with the RV campgrounds and with the cabins, if they were all developed fully, you'd be about doubling, a little more than doubling.
Correct, and one note about our RV, we don't run a typical RV camp where, like you, a private citizen, could just come up and rent for the week or whatever. We utilize those 6 weekends a year for family camps. So if a family camper is coming up and they want to bring their own trailer instead of staying in one of our buildings, that's how those are utilized. And then the 10 volunteer sites, we just have, retired seasonal volunteers that come up and they'll stay in the camper, So our RV park is a little bit of an anomaly versus like an Augers on the lake as well that has seasonal spots that are full, whatever their capacities are.
Yeah,
So,
and camp, obviously a camp dweller, a person attending
Sure.
camp, being at camp is, could be a worker, could be a counselor, could be an active participant, whatever, could be an RV camper. A lot different than just a typical lakeshore home where everything is concentrated right at the lakeshore.
correct.
How would you see people distributed around the camp on a given day? Where would they be? If you had 1,200 people, where would they be?
Yeah, it really depends.
Would they all be on the lakeshore?
No, they really wouldn't. In the development, and we're getting back to maps, but where our current gymnasium is, in the plan is a new dining hall, because that's becoming a limiting factor, is being able to feed everybody in a timely manner. Currently, our dining hall was grandfathered in, built in the 60s or 70s, and you can throw a rock and hit the lake. We're moving the dining hall up the hill, and I believe it would be in it would be tier 4, actually out of tier 4. So that's how far away from the lake it is. So 1,000 feet, I guess, Amy, if that's correct on the tier layout.
Yeah, I think so. They go in intervals of 267 feet
Okay.
each tier.
Yeah, so roughly 1,000 feet up. But back to your question about where they would be concentrated, it's really all over the whole map. As far as aquatic activities, we have got a beach area that's got a blob and a slide and not really that much dock space. We don't do a lot of boating. We do mainly swimming. We do some canoeing. We do have a ski boat that does go out and pull skiers. But at most, you're typically 80 to 100 people down at the beach at any given time. When we increase capacity, that number will change. That's just kind of how we currently program now. So while the waterfront is an activity that's going on, they're also at the gym, they're also at the ropes course, they're also doing horses, they're also at the leather shop. I mean, there's such a variety of activities that we're really, I mean, we're on the lake, but that's not normally where we live, so to speak, programmatically anyway.
And a typical resort would everybody bring a boat,
Sure.
and you just don't do that.
No, we don't provide any dock space for a guest. Every once in a while, a family camper will bring a boat that they do, and they usually put it in and take it out every day, because like I said, we don't provide any dock spaces for them at all.
Okay, well, that's helpful too, because we have questions answered, criteria
sure.
questions to
No,
answer,
absolutely.
and one of them is, density, use of,
No,
yeah, I've got some more questions like that, but later.
okay.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Marv.
I read something, and maybe Amy can elaborate on this here, about the septic design. Would it have to be through like a commercial and have to meet all these standards?
Yes, because collectively, the septic system treats 10,000 gallons or more per day, it's under Minnesota Pollution Control Agency jurisdiction, so the county does not permit that system or regulate it. And so since it's already met that threshold, any additional capacity will go through the MPCA, and an advanced designer would be designing that. So that is already happening, and any capacity that's built into that will go through that process as well.
Thank you.
Amy, oh, sorry, Clint. I should go through you.
Go ahead, Mr. Stish.
Thank you. So when they get to that point where, even before they're gonna build a cabin, they probably need that on file, and even though somebody else does it, you have it.
We're looking for septic capacity, so they need to show that they either have where they're connecting to, so these cabins aren't plumbed, and so we're not necessarily looking at the connection from the cabin to that, but we are looking at when you're adding cabin capacity, that also with these cabins, then there's some bathhouses that'll be going in to serve those, so we'll be looking at those bathhouses, what system they're connecting to, and that there's adequate capacity. So that'll be reviewed by their designer. The other part is that the public health may have some oversight with this as well. Do you recall with your bathhouses, if they'll
I
be?
talked to Michelle, and see, the way it all works, and I'll just bring you up to date on the whole septic thing. I'm a Class D wastewater operator, so I can run a small municipality, which is hilarious because I deal specifically with septic systems. We are in the midst of a permit renewal right now for our existing permit. It does also include the systems for the two new retreat centers. So the three that were on the 2019, it brings those up to that. That permit should be issued July-ish. I talked to Laura, who's our permit writer, earlier this week, and she's got an internal review, and then there's a 30-day, public posting period for comment. So that process is en route. For the new stuff, it'll be a permit modification. So when we get to that point, it'll go back through PCA. It's designed by our engineer, and then the PCA engineer signs off on it. Yes, this is sufficient for the use and the gallons and all that stuff. So that's how the septic stuff is dealt with. As far as, one more quick thing, as far as the plumbing and the bathhouses, that all goes to state plan review for,
Department of Labor and Industry
Exactly.
does plan reviews
yeah,
for
so the
that.
state inspects all that, the engineer designs the the pipe sizing, everything, and then they come out and inspect it and make sure that the plumber did the correct thing. So really, our hands are out of it, other than we just make sure it's done to code and that our plumber is doing what he's supposed to be doing. So that's just kind of how it functions as far as from a regulatory perspective.
So you have the right paper when you need it. If you're gonna do 4 cabins, you have the paper
Correct.
for that.
Yep.
And that all goes to your office, I guess is what.
At permitting time, that's something that, and then also their inspector, usually we get quarterly and or annual reports. So we usually know the compliance status of their system all the time.
Yeah, just kind of curious on that whole process.
No, good
Well, that's
questions.
comforting to know that you're a licensed guy and plan to keep that up.
Yes, yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Anybody else have anything to this point? Okay, if not, we'll move along, Kyle. Go on to the next one. Okay.
Okay, so number 3 would be the start of the bathhouse to serve the cabin expansion. The bathhouse print that we're working with is approximately 30 by 70. It's gone to the engineer now for the plumbing drawings. Essentially, they'll serve 96 beds, is kind of how they were designed. So each bathhouse will cover 96 to 100 guests. So that's why there's the number that there are, or I guess it'd be 106. So 2 of them do not have any meeting space. The other ones are a little bit bigger, just to have another small meeting space up in that area of the up to 40 cabins or whatever, just to give them a place to get out of the weather if they need to and have cabin time or whatever. So that kind of covers 3 and 4, if that makes sense on those.
Yep. So then them bathhouses will actually be toilet facilities plus showers?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
You guys have any questions on them? Okay, so we want to move along to 5, I guess.
Yep, the construct a 104 by 50 activity space. Once again, going back to that idea that we're starting to separate our kids by age group. It's kind of like what we're doing in number 1. It just provides an activity hub for that area as those cabins are built out, is the rationale for it. So it'll be just a gymnasium recreation space for up there.
Mr. Stish?
Tenderfoot indicates younger?
Oh,
or-
sorry, yes. Tenderfoot for camp is our 1st through 4th graders. And then, kind of embarrassed, I do maintenance, so the programming side as far as what the age groups, we have Trailblazer Camp, but I can't remember the exact age. And there's Voyager Camp. Those are kind of the 3 major age breakdowns. But it's 1st through 4th, 5th through 6th, and 6th through 8th, but I don't remember which name goes with which one, other than Tenderfoot are the little guys.
And some might be going on at the same time, or mostly
They run all the same.
one age group per week, or?
No, a lot of times we'll have all 3.
Okay, that's what I was
Yeah.
wondering. So that's why you have the different areas
Correct,
to
yeah.
accommodate the different age groups? Okay,
Exactly.
thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mr. Butcher.
Yeah, I just kind of try to understand, when you engineer this, for example, to handle the effluent from one of these bathhouses, and what engineering firm, or how do you design this, how do you design all this?
The plumbing or
Yeah, right,
the plumbing side is done by WSN out of Brainerd, Whitesmiths, or,
okay,
It says Smith Knolting.
sure,
yeah, those
sure.
guys.
Okay,
And Giza Plumbing does all our installation and stuff. And so Giza works with the designer at WSN based off just the print, which has the fixture count and all that.
when you do this, and since you are does MPCA review all of that in addition, or
They don't-
just the septic?
They're looking at just the septic. Dave Gustafson out of Woodland Engineering does our septic design.
Uh-huh,
And so he submits his plans to the PCA, and then they approve it, or they have questions or whatever. So that's kind of how that goes.
you've answered my question, thank you.
Yep, and then when the engineer does that plan, then all of that gets sent to the Department of Labor and Industry, and then they do a full plan review for plumbing code. And so before it's implemented, it goes through engineering, and then it goes for review by Department of Labor and Industry. then Giza would be installing. So there's a few layers of oversight
I
there.
just asked that question because as a farmer, when we do these things, everything has to be engineered
Yep.
and I just real quickly, I know one thing, you don't call them up and ask them how they are because you're going to get a bill for that.
Stish, were you done with your questions for this part?
Did I have any?
Yeah, you had one, but I didn't know if
Yes.
you're good, okay. Marv, you're good? Okay. Yep, so we'll move to number 6.
Okay, number 6 is an approximate 5,800 square foot welcome center. Basically, to get away from the internal camp vernacular, it'll be office space, for our full-time staff, and then also just an area that makes sense when our guests come in, that we can greet them and get them figured out where they need to be and that kind of thing, because right now it's a little haphazard at times. So that'll be located right next to the current gymnasium.
You guys good?
We're in number 6, correct? Yeah. In number 6, you bring up the engineered stormwater and parking plans. So I guess as good a time as any to discuss the engineered stormwater plans
Sure.
and to look back on 2019 and the stormwater plan that you came up with the county, with the shorewater designer. Maybe to compact that all into one question.
Sure.
Do you plan on getting a formal engineered design for all of the improved areas of all of the, areas where there's construction, parking, trails, paths, roads, buildings?
Correct, yep.
Is it going to cover everything?
Well, that's a great question. We haven't looked at the cabin areas for those. We were more concerned with the gym because that was gonna be the main parking disruption in addition there. And so KLD did the design for this, which is the drawing that's shown. There's quite a bit of parking there that's additional, and it'll be phased over time. His plan was stormwater retention ponds to cut off the water coming down from the impervious surface to make sure it doesn't go down the hill and eventually either into the wetland or to the lake. So that's, we haven't looked beyond the specific area there as far as that. The second part on the 2019, the shoreline representative came out and made no recommendations. He said, basically, you guys are doing fine, I don't see any issues. So, and he did mainly, an inspection of the bluff area by the waterfront on the 5,000, whatever, 700 feet it is.
Okay.
So, and I don't know if he even made a plan, he just came out and basically told us we were fine and
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know that he didn't find anything that needed any sort of attention or that had any concern. Because they have the sand blanket area, the beach area, but then the rest is really natural and left that way. And most of what's adjacent to the lake shore is bluff, so there's no development or excavation or anything happening there. So everything is pretty natural in that
Back
area.
at the time, it didn't seem like it was going to be much of a plan, if any.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
just a
yeah, there
good
was
thing.
nothing formal put into place.
So this, what's in front of us right now is a stormwater plan for the heavily developed part of camp.
Correct, yep.
Where are the cabins relative to this?
They are a pretty good bit east of there. So on this plan, the gym is kind of in the middle and they are more out, west. So they would be on that,
To the left on this drawing. I assume this
Correct.
is north, okay.
yeah.
Could they be included in that plan? I mean, that's 40 cabins at that size and pathways and roads and whatever. That's a big
Yeah.
impact on an area.
I mean, they can, it's, we haven't looked at that. The one nice thing about that area too, the way the bluff sits, that actually slopes away from the bluff. So that whole area where the development will be is, actually the natural water line is going towards Ridge Road and not the lake.
It
in
sure
that
sounded a
area in
lot better
particular.
coming from an engineer than from you and me, or,
Yeah, no, that's true.
would you be willing to include that in your engineered stormwater plan?
Yeah, we
Like
can
you
do that.
are saying, probably it isn't gonna amount to much. It might be a little water directed into a catch basin or something, but,
Yeah,
generally it's a point here and there that gets erosion problems.
sure,
Not a whole big watershed, but,
yeah.
yeah, I think, if you could expand that, that would be a condition that I would like to see on here.
Okay.
Assuming that's not gonna be a huge expense to you, to add that a little bit more.
Well,
Oh,
it's,
about 40 grand.
yeah, anytime you get the engineer involved, the dollar signs click by pretty quick. So,
Mr. Chair?
Yes. Oh, sorry, wrong chair.
Go ahead, Amy.
Dave, are you talking for the whole site or just for the area for the cabins or?
What's in the plan tonight?
Okay. The other thing is some of this, depending on how it is, they will trip the MPCA, stormwater, because even with phased plans, they, if they're disturbing an acre or more, they'll be tripping some of those plans and we'll have to develop a SWIP for some of those, projects. So that's just to let you know that there's another layer of oversight or another, regulation that will probably kick in with some of this, given the amount of disturbance that they're going to be doing there.
But at 4 cabins a year, things might not trip like they would at 40 at one time, is what concerns me, you know?
well, that makes sense.
Yeah. So I'd like you to think on that.
Sure.
Anybody else? Marv, you good? Okay. So we might as well move to 7.
Okay.
That was the dining hall.
Yeah, so once again, the square footage is very approximate. It'll be next to that welcome center and the gym, that same area that's listed in that stormwater plan. And basically, it's just we're running out of space, you know, to serve the guests adequately and get them through in a reasonable time at mealtime. So that's the thought on that. Yeah.
Okay, Kyle, and you said your old dining hall is really close to the lake. What do you be using that for then, when you get this
It
constructed?
most likely would be just remodeled into guest housing. I mean, the infrastructure is already there, we just won't serve food out of it.
Okay.
So it'll be a light remodel on the inside, the bathrooms and shower space is already there, so.
So then it'll actually be less activity, but it'll change the dwelling density.
Yes. Mr. Chair, is that identified in any of the conversion of that building to guest space? Is that
No, we
identified?
haven't even thought through that part of it.
Okay, so that'll be something that your tier will need to be, since that's in the first tier.
Sure.
That you will, whether or not that can be converted.
Okay.
Or the number of units it can be.
Okay.
We need to be paying attention to that because it's a change in use of a
Okay.
non-conforming structure. So just so you know that we'll need to circle back on that
Okay.
when you get to that point.
Yeah, and that, you know, like I said, if that happened in the next 10 years of the dining hall construction, given the economic status, that would be a great thing. But yeah, that's something I guess we can visit on and see what. 'Cause-
Right, so the housing that you're proposing here, the conversion of that dining hall would be in addition to all of this as well? for
Yeah,
like the
and
number of people?
that's
Okay.
way down the road, so
Way
we really
up.
hadn't even thrown it on the
Really,
map
okay.
as far as what
Sounds
we were
good.
thinking.
Okay, that's fair question, fair statement. You guys got anything on that? Okay. Moving to number 8, then your RV campground.
Okay, yep. Currently, we've got 35 sites that we use, like I said, 6, 7 weekends out of the summer, and then we don't do any other seasonal rentals. And then we've got 10-site volunteer campground. And so we're looking at moving it actually north of Ridge Road, so it would be on the new property, and basically consolidating all the campground to one spot, is essentially what we're doing. And I think think we asked for a site total number to go from the 45 we had current up to 50. But most likely, we would start in that 20 to 30 range. And then if the demand was there, we would keep doing it. It's kind of one of those things that the RV sites work good for those that really like it, but relocating it across the road changes the programmatic dynamic for the families. So we're doing some surveying right now, so it may be that stays just a smaller kind of volunteer site and we just eliminate a campground. Because it does change their experience, because they can't, you know, they're more separated from the activities. So,
Mr. Stish?
When you refer to campground, you're referring to the RV campground?
Correct,
That's the
yes,
only
sir.
campground you've got, is the RV sites?
yes, sir, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I can see where that would be hard to fit into the dynamics of a Christian camp out of an RV, when you're not part of the activities and part of the bunk experience or
Yeah,
whatever.
the space does change the experience for sure.
Relocating it on the north side of the road, I assume would take care of any stormwater things that I was concerned with because of the ditch and the whatever. However,
Yeah,
it'd be close enough to the road so that that would accommodate all the runoff, I would guess, and,
yeah, and it's actually, you know, topographically, we're going downhill again.
oh,
So from ridge down, it's probably
Oh,
25 to
even goes the
35
other way
feet of
now.
elevation change.
okay.
Any more questions on number 8? Are we good, Dave, Kip? We'll go along to number 9, some more to bathhouses.
Yep, 9 is the 30 by 70 bathhouse. Once again, it's just to accommodate the campers. Sometimes they do use their facilities in their RVs, and sometimes they don't. So it's just to make sure that we've got adequate toilet and shower facilities for the guest in there.
Pretty straightforward. You guys good on that one for now? Okay, then you might as, I suppose, 10 and 11 go kind of together, so.
They really do. We're basically, we've got a shop now that's 48 by 120, and then we're just running out of space. So to do another shop that's bigger will allow us to do a few more things. And then the 3 pole barns are basically just storage of materials and storage of vehicles and boats and those kind of things that we just need to do to take better care of our stuff, to be honest, because our boats end up stored outside, which is not great for them during the off-season, so.
Okay, you guys got more questions, and then we'll probably have them show us on maps where we're gonna put some of these things. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Stish.
Question on this one, would they be on the lake side of the road or the,
No, they'd be on the north side of Ridge Road.
Okay.
Our current shop is on the north side of Ridge Road.
so very little true camping experiences on anything but the roadside?
Correct.
And nothing but camping experiences, storage, maintenance,
Yep,
whatever
we
on the other side?
try to separate them, for
That-
sure.
That is nice,
Yep,
safety-wise, et cetera, et cetera.
yep.
Okay, so I think what we'll do now, Kyle, if you'd wanna just grab your sheet of paper that lists them 11 things.
Okay.
And just go back down them again. If you could go up to the screen and just kind of point out where them are gonna be for us, please. So Randy, just hold on, you ain't gonna be able to hear them, but we will, so.
Okay, item number 1 would be the tenderfoot gym, which would be up here. And currently, the Ironwood, which was built and done last year, is right here. The other building that we're in construction of right now is right here, so it'll be kind of in that same area there.
Okay, just go through them all, and then if we have questions, we'll come back to it.
Okay, items 2, 3, 4, and 5, the bathhouses and the cabins are over here. So it's kind of west in some of what is the pasture area right now. So kind of, I think it's tier 2 and 3, depending on the final locations. They haven't staked out building sites or anything yet. It's just kind of the area that they're looking at. And then, let's see, 6 and 7 would be the the welcome center and the dining hall. The gymnasium is right here, so they would be basically in this area right here. And then the parking plan and the stormwater plan, that would kind of encompass this whole area right here. Does that make sense?
Yep, so that'd be right up by the road there.
Yep. 8, the RV campground, and then that bathhouse that would serve it. So this is Ridge Road, this is our current maintenance shop, and that would be up over here.
Okay.
And then, yeah, the new maintenance building would be basically somewhere up into here, kind of behind our other ones. And then pole barns, we were looking over in this area right here, again, north of Ridge, and kind of still near our existing maintenance area.
Are those all screened by trees back in?
Yeah, they're not right on the road, so we're not taking out the forestry buffer that's there.
Okay.
So then you guys look on the map, he's got, the items are numbered too, so you can see where the numbers are. You can tell where they're at also. So you guys got some more questions for him now that drive anything? Go ahead, Mr. Brucher.
Yeah, on the cabins there at the numbers 2, 3, where we're at here, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Yep.
How far from the lake shore is that site?
They are in tier 2 and 3, so that would be, what, 600 or 700
500 to
feet?
700 feet.
Yeah,
Something like that.
the closest, tier 2 would be 267 feet from the water.
Okay, so, yeah.
So they more than meet the
That's just-
setback.
Thank you.
And
Yep.
the surveyor did perform a bluff determination
Right.
along that whole line there.
Yeah.
Just so we know exactly where that, buildable envelope begins.
So the bluff actually pushes development back farther than what the lake setback would be.
Yeah, and I haven't gotten the new copy of that, but the survey was completed about a month ago on that.
Okay. Guys have any other questions for him? Go ahead, Mr. Stish.
And like the shops, I assume you try to have that tree buffer wherever you can to maintain the camp experience and the shielding from the neighbors or passersby as much as
Yeah,
possible.
we do everything we can to be good neighbors and, present a good foot forward in the area.
Yeah, I don't know if this is the time to ask or not, but the township hasn't, did they weigh in at all on this, on the road? I mean, this is potentially a lot more traffic, doubling the number of guests there. Not tomorrow, but in the future.
Sure.
Did they weigh in on how the road accommodates all that? Do guests all come from one direction? Do they come from multiple directions?
I mean, typically they're coming off of Highway 10.
Sure.
Most of them. I mean, we do have a lot of local, Brainerd area people, and literally we draw from all over the state. So they're coming different ways, but the majority of traffic would be Highway 10.
Once you go to Highway 10, there's just one way then?
Yeah, coming on Ridge. Once again, I mean, some of that's, I think, reflected in the lack of comment or concern from the letters that are sent out, and we've got a good working relationship with the township. A couple of our employees plow for them in the summer, and, I've never heard any negative feedback from the township on what we do or anything.
But they're aware of your proposal that you plan on doubling?
I don't know. I have not spoken directly to them.
That's not your job title.
Yeah, probably is. I just probably didn't think about it. So,
You probably have more job titles than you know about, huh?
we have a few, yep.
Mr. Chair, as
Go ahead, Amy.
As part of this request, we did send notice to the township, and so if they had concerns about what this expansion meant or what the 10-year master plan included, they certainly could have reached out. They didn't. They also were invited to the development review team meeting to discuss this before this even was presented for public hearings. So they've been in the loop on everything leading up to this.
Yeah, I guess most things, most CUPs, IUPs are pretty self-explanatory, what they are. This, not so much, expansion of Shamana, well, what are they? You're just gonna add on to a building, or this is doubling the size of camp, So it's a pretty big impact on the area, I would guess, regardless of how much caution you take. So I'm a little concerned that, the public may not be really aware what's happening here, and perhaps the township maybe not even, so. Though I can't see any problems with it, but are they informed?
The other thing, Stish, is
Yeah,
there's nothing else on that road. Couple houses, right?
Yeah, there's
Down
some
towards 10.
residences.
Other than that, it goes through from 2 and goes from there to 10. So it ain't like it's a real populated area either. There's a few houses towards 10, but other than that, it's pretty sparse. So that's probably why you don't get a lot of comment, because there ain't a lot of people right there.
yeah, just that few of a number.
Yeah.
I mean, normally on the lake, you get 100, 125, notices have to be sent out. But, okay, well, just my thoughts.
Okay, anybody else, any questions? Marvin?
I have no more.
Okay. How about the commissioners in the back? Want us to ask something? If you do, go to the microphone. Okay. Randy, did you have anything at this point? Silence is the best.
No, I did not have any. I had to get myself off mute. So no, I did not.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now open it to public comment. I don't see that,
Scared away or one public, yeah.
yeah, we don't have no, so any other public comment? Any other public comment? No other public comment, we'll close this part of the meeting to the public. No township was here, so, the public hearing will be closed, so. Well, you guys ready to go through some of our criteria questions?
I am.
I'm like Stish, I can't find them. Here they are.
It's here.
Okay. Brent's not here tonight, so. Okay, the use will not put an excessive burden on roadways, utilities, and public facilities such as parks and schools. We'll start with Mr. Stish.
Well, according to the people that were asked about it and that had a chance to respond to it, no. And according to a fellow board member who's very familiar with the area, no. Doesn't seem like it. Not a lot of expertise in that comment.
Anybody else have anything to add to that question?
I would like to add
Go ahead, Marv.
a few items. I mean, what it looked like, it's a total of like 793 acres. So, I mean, you have, it's remote in some aspects of it. And here, 56 notices, and Dave pointed out, no complaints. Township, if there is a problem, we've noticed the township officials usually show up or we hear from. We heard nothing. So with that being said, we have no problem with the roads, no utilities, no public facilities, parks or schools that would be affected by it. So I don't see how it could be.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I agree with what's stated. There's gonna be extra by when they get their project all done, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, whatever it be. It's sporadic. It's not every single day traffic. They come and they're there and they leave and the roads are all designed for that. And it's not a very heavily populated area. So I kind of agree with what everybody said and just add that. Any other further comment? If not, we'll move to question 2. So the request will not be detrimental to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for the purpose already permitted, nor impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of surrounding vacant property for use of predominant area. David Brucher.
Yes, it will not be detrimental. Something that, like you brought up, Clint, is that there's nothing else on that road. And, we get out for these variance viewings, and I've never been up there yet for anything. So I don't see how it could interfere with anybody's enjoyment, because there's hardly anybody up there. So I say yes, it have to be answered yes. So I say yes, it will not be detrimental.
Any other comments on that one? Marvin?
Something too that I think that we should, there was, what was suggested, there was two conditions, and them two conditions help from it being detrimental. So we adopt them conditions about the horses and the soaps not used in the lake. And yeah, here, they've got designed and implement a stormwater plan, and here, I don't see how it could be.
Go ahead, Mr. Stish.
Okay, related to this question, if there were 40 more cabins going up on the lake, that would be a different answer to this question. But 40 cabins for, 480 campers is a lot different because of the camping experience, because of all the infrastructure on the site, which is spread out over a lot of acreage, 700 and whatever it is now, 35 acres, and that is all done with, the looks of the area in mind. The camps are generally designed to keep it looking like a camp experience. So you have trees, that you have open spaces, that you have, you're not compacted into a small area. So not a big impact on lake. As they had mentioned, no boats really involved with all of these campers. So there's no boating on the lake. The lake shore, maybe 80 or so folks there at any one time. Even if there's 1,200 there, that's probably all that's going to be on using the shore, the beach. So can't see it being a problem to people who are already use the lake, the public that will use the lake, or to other uses in the area. So that's how I look at that question.
Okay, just one thing I'd like to add, I can't speak for the lakeside because I've never seen that, but in my previous employment, I used to drive that road once a week, sometimes 2-3 times a week. And in the winter, you don't have leaves and stuff. You will see one of the, like maybe the shop or one of the buildings. But even with no leaves, you can't, if you didn't know that was Camp Chaminade, you would not know that that's what's going on there. Because of the terrain, the topographical area that it is, and how they got it spread out. And I think even by adding on their whole big plan, other than maybe the parking area, other than that, I don't know if anybody will even know that there was a big expansion in Camp Chaminade, just because of the terrain and the way it's kind of not hidden, but just the landscape, the trees and all that. So I just wanted to point that out, that even in the winter with no leaves, you would never know that it's there if you didn't know that's what it was. Okay, so question 3. The use in the opinion of the Planning Commission is reasonably related to the existing land use and the environment. Groundwater, surface water, and air quality in the surrounding area will not be adversely affected by the proposed use. Marvin Treadle.
I don't believe it will. A few reasons behind it. First of all, like the septic design will be MPCA designed and approved. It will be state inspected. The amount of impervious surface is so minimum for the amount of area, so it won't. And we're talking about, there's a bluff in there, and they're keeping everything away from the bluff. In the lake shore, they're keeping natural, not doing anything to it. So I don't see how it could be. Another item was talked about, they already have, they're trying to direct the water away from the lake and have some catch basins to prevent running down to the lake. So I don't see how this could be an issue.
Okay, thank you, Marv. Anybody else like to add to that?
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead, Mr. Brucher.
This question comes up on every permit or variance, and for us to question this one as compared to a pre-engineered plan, as to compared to some non-engineered plan, because again, you've got engineers here that are liable for the plan. I don't, like I said, I don't see how we could spend any time on this question, so I have to say yes.
Okay. Mr. Stitch?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to, I agree with all of that, and I guess I'd just like to expand that engineered stormwater plan to include everything on the lake side of the road, all proposed developments on the lake side of the road. And then I could easily answer that question, yes, because I agree that with that and with Bluff in mind, it gets to be a pretty complicated set of contours there on that, between the road and the lake on the camp property. So I'd be able to answer that question, yes, if it included everything on the lake side of the road.
Okay, thank you. Okay, question 4. The use is consistent with the purposes of the zoning ordinance and the purposes of the zoning district in which the applicant intends to locate the proposed use. I'll start on this one. Yes, I think most definitely. There's a lot of different tiers of oversight that goes into what this applicant has and is proposing. A lot of oversight with that, and it's all within rules and regulations that we have. Looking through this, I think the different tiers that are set up away from the lake and how this project is expanded, and certain things are in certain tiers, and keeping track of the number of dwellings that are each one of them tiers. And if you look at this whole project, it's not very heavily developed. How often we get something that's this far away from the lake, everything that's kind of pretty much developed for the most part. And it's allowed in our zoning ordinance to get this. So I think all the steps, the oversight with the different tiers, the amount of land mass that they have, I think it is really consistent with our zoning ordinance and our zoning district. Anybody else have anything else to add to that? If not, we'll move to number 5. The use is not in conflict with the comprehensive plan or water plan of the county. Mr. Stish.
Well, I look at the back of the staff report, and the back 2 pages have the applicable comprehensive land use plan goals and objectives, shoreline management, local economic development, and surface water goals. And as I read through each one of them, there's not a one that's in conflict with this plan. In fact, this plan, this use is almost the poster child for all of these things. Pick out any one of them, ensure that the county lakes and rivers remain a resource that is available for use and enjoyment by the general public. It invites the public to camp, and it respects all the property, which is a large property that's being used, and shares it with the public in that they get to see it from the water, they get to see it from the road, and it looks natural. That's just one. I'll spare you by going over every one of them, but they're all are consistent with the proposal here.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Stish. Anybody have anything to add?
I just have to add that with Mr. Stish's endorsement, I think that going over everything, I'd say it'd have to be a yes.
Okay. So we're getting ready to vote, so you guys want to discuss the conditions before we vote? What we want?
Yeah, I think so.
So I think what we have down, you can tell me if we're wrong. Find my sheet again, sorry. So we were gonna go with the conditions that were on there before, that the camp shall not allow patrons and staff to utilize soaps and other cleansers within Lake Shamana. The camp shall not allow horses and other livestock to enter the waters of Lake Shamana. Kind of tweaked number 3 to state what Mr. Stish said, that the shoreland, maybe not specialist, but a stormwater plan, engineered stormwater plan on all the lakeside stuff, from Ridge Road to the lake.
That's what I was proposing.
Okay. Everybody okay with them 3 conditions, or,
I'm fine with that.
No objections.
okay? So you have,
One little addition.
Yeah.
Amy, your office is good with what's been submitted. Do you need anything more in the way of a comprehensive plan?
No, we
Okay, you're comfortable with the list and what hasn't been done, what will be done? and-
Yes. Because at permitting time, we get more detail for
Sure.
each one of these.
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
okay, you got them all wrote down? Okay. Okay, we're gonna vote then, guys. Okay, the use is not, the use will not put an excessive burden on roadways, utilities, and public facilities such as parks and schools. Dave Stish.
Yes.
Marvin Treadle.
Yes.
Dave Brucher.
Yes,
Clint Catherine, myself is yes. Number 2, the request will not be detrimental to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for the purpose already permitted, nor impede the normal and orderly development improvement for surrounding vacant property for uses predominant in the area. Marvin Treadle,
Yes.
Dave Brucher.
yes,
Myself, Clint Catherine is yes. Dave Stish?
Yes.
Okay. Number 3, the use in the opinion of the planning commission is reasonably related to the existing land use and the environment. Groundwater, surface water, and air quality in the surrounding area will not be adversely affected by the proposed use. Dave Brucher,
yes,
Clint Catherine, myself is yes. Dave Stish?
Yes.
Marvin Treadle?
Yes.
Okay, question 4, the use is consistent with the purposes of the zoning ordinance and the purposes of the zoning district in which the applicant intends to locate the proposed use. Clint Catherine, myself is yes. Dave Stish?
Yes.
Marvin Treadle?
Yes.
Dave Brucher?
yes,
Okay, question 5. Excuse me. The use is not in conflict with the comprehensive plan or the water plan of the county. Dave Stish?
Yes.
Marvin Treadle?
Yes.
Dave Brucher?
yes,
Clint Catherine, myself is yes. Okay. Somebody like to make a motion to
Mr. Chair.
recommend approval or deny approval?
Mr. Chair, I move that we recommend approval of this COP request to the county commissioners
With the 3 conditions?
with the 3 conditions.
I second that motion.
Okay, motion's made and seconded to recommend this with the 3 conditions for approval to the commissioners. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, passes. So this will go forward in the commissioners in their meeting on what date, Amy?
7th, it'll go to the board meeting, okay? All right. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you for all the information and everything.
Yeah, no, appreciate y'all's time very much.
And good luck with your endeavors.
Thank you.
Thank you. Boy, that cleared them out, didn't it?
I thought that would take longer than it did. Okay. So we got our minutes from May 17th. You guys got a chance?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to have the minutes approved.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, motion made and second to approve. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, minutes are approved. Any new business?
The,
Commissioners, this is Randy. You guys did a great job on this one, vetting this one, so kudos to all of you, and Amy, thank you.
thanks, Randy.
Stop by and see my L28.
Oh, he's gone. I am working on the ag zoning ordinance updates. The county board wants to see them at a planning session one more time. So once they give their blessing for what they for sure want to go through to public hearing, then I will be getting those out to you to see. There may be some other sections of the ordinance that since we're opening the ordinance, typos, tweaks, little things like that, that we'll probably clean up. But that will be coming. I'm going to the planning session on the 14th of June, so it'll probably be coming for hearing in July sometime. So just an update on that. Otherwise, I don't think I've got anything.
Okay,
One comment.
go ahead, Mr. Sish.
I went to the portal
Oh, yes.
and yeah, I got calendar, that's all up to date, but there's not been much, I don't think there's been anything entered much on findings of fact, and some other things are missing out of there.
Okay,
I think there's only one finding of fact from 22.
okay. Sharon, do you,
Judy does all that,
but you're giving them to her?
the findings.
Yeah.
I thought she got them from you.
No, I don't see them after they're signed. So we'll,
There might be some other things that are not up to date on there, but
yeah, so we'll follow up with
Okay,
those and
thank
get
you.
those posted, yeah.
I love findings of fact. And so should everybody else.
Yeah, so no, we'll get those, but thank you. I'm glad you are utilizing the portal.
Okay, any old business?
I don't have any, Mr. Chair.
Okay, if not, we'll take a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
I'll second that one.
Okay, motion made and second to adjourn. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.